Hello there, and welcome to this week's edition of Creative Critique. The newly released cinematic film that I saw this week was the newest adaptation of Cinderella. This adaptation is directed by Kenneth Branagh and is a live-action version. I'm going to spare you the details of describing the plot because I think it's probably fair to say that 90% of us have seen probably the 1950s classic Disney Cinderella, and this film doesn't deter too far from that material. So probably the question to ask is, why would you bother seeing this live action version if you've already enjoyed and seen the animated version? Because there's probably not too much you'd think in terms of plot to span out to a larger and more bigger film. I'll go through a few things with this film. Lily James is Cinderella in this film, and she displays all the grace and niceties, if you will, that should be expected of the character. Cate Blanchett plays the evil stepmother with great aplomb, I must say. And there's solid support all around the rest of the film, with whether it's Richard Madden's Prince Charming, Stellan Skarsgård's King's Help, or whether it's briefly Hayley Atwell and Ben Chaplin as Cinderella's parents, or Derek Jacobi as Prince Charming's father. And a little shout out has to go to Rob Brydon, who has a very brief appearance, but memorable in many ways. So yeah, nice cast going on in here. Very British cast also, it must be said. So, quality of acting is there. Kenneth Branagh is building up a nice repertoire of, it's fair to say, big budget effects films as well, as we saw previously with a Disney owned film, 4, and he's now gone on to this, Cinderella. Where do I begin? Because I'm going to, straight away, I think, give you my synopsis of this film and what I believe it has done well. What it's done well is, first of all, I think Cate Blanchett is fabulous as the evil stepmother. She's got really good performance in here. And I must say, the absolute outstanding wardrobe department in this film is fabulous. They've done fabulous work. I mean, Cate Blanchett's the first dress you see her in, and she makes entrance into the film, is so memorable, and it just sets the tone for her character, which is a good piece of work going on there by the design department. Like I said, the look of the film is fabulous. There's some wonderful cinematography, and there's some fabulous set pieces in this film, be it the final ballroom scene where the prince is invited all eligible maidens to a ball to become his queen, prospective queen. So it looks fabulous. Who did I forget in terms of the cast before? I forgot Helena Bonham Carter as the fairy godmother, who is always memorable because she effectively plays Helena Bonham Carter in every film. Well, she's quite good. The effects are very good actually as well, and there's some fabulously, probably the funny moments regarding the transformation scenes with Helena Bonham Carter, with a goose and some lizards transforming into coach driver and footman respectively. Some very funny moments there. So yeah, I'll go back to the point of why would you watch this film if you've seen the original? Because there's good performances in there, there's some good effects in there, but it effectively remains the same story. So I can understand why people would be very sceptical about this film. And my overall opinion upon watching it was, it's decent stuff without being wonderful, if you will. Sorry, it's probably decent stuff without being outstanding. So it's a very good. It's a decent film. I'm going to just repeat myself a third time here, aren't I? Why am I doing that? Like I said, it's just missing an edge. Probably just a final piece of edge. Maybe it's because they're sticking so much to the traditional nature of the film. But in a way, that's part of its charm, because it's not trying to be anything different. It's not trying to do a new twist on the sort of genre or their own films. Disney have recently done that with, most obviously, Enchanted, which I loved Enchanted because it did offer a new perspective on there, and they were being so self-aware in a new age of filmmaking. So they took a little step back, but then they're always good at what they do. That's the thing. So it's a pleasant and decent watch. If possibly, whether you go back to it, I'm not sure. But there's decent stuff in there to appreciate. But yeah, it's a decent film without being outstanding, like I said. That's probably the 5th time I've repeated that. You kind of, probably I've commented upon a few negative, possibly. The supporting cast doesn't get much of a look in, it's fair to say. I always say it's fair to say, so there we go. So, but I suppose with the characters in the film, it's hard to sort of broaden their characterization, if you will. So I wanted to see more Stellan Skarsgård, and I wanted to see a bit more Cate Blanchett. Although you did get a decent enough look at Cate Blanchett. She's probably the one character that comes out with a bit more backstory than you did in the 50s animated original. You get a bit more reason behind why she is as she is and behaves the way she does. So I quite like that. So there's a little bit of expansion on her characterization. But I still wanted a bit more, and I wanted a bit more from Stellan Skarsgård. Like I said, who I always enjoy watching. He's an actor I always enjoy seeing. And yeah, the only other slight negative probably, if you're going to stick to that sort of traditional sort of stuff, it can be sometimes become a little bit. I'm trying to think of the right word here. Not twee, but a bit. I'll stick with twee. So, in order to sort of balance it out, I would have liked a little bit more humour. Like I say, there was definitely funny moments, but not at a consistent level. So there's negatives, there's positives. It's a decent film, without being outstanding. That's the 6th time I've mentioned that, probably. So I'm going to leave that film at that point, because there's probably not much more I can say about it. So yeah, it's worth a watch. Worth a watch once, probably. Maybe you go back to it. We'll see. We'll see in years to come. So I will now go on to a film that has been deemed a classic film by many critics and film watchers. The film in question is A Fish Called Wanda. This is, of course, the 1988 John Cleese written comedy, which he also starred in as a barrister. And features also Jamie Lee Curtis and Kevin Kline and Michael Palin, who are criminals who undertake effectively a bank job with an English, I can't remember his English name now, damn it, is it Tom Georgeson or George Thomason? Either way, they reversed the character's name to the actor's name. So either way, I've said it right at some point. He's the head of this little gang. Jamie Lee Curtis is the American that effectively is, well, in love with him, if you will. And Kevin Kline is her brother. So I think we know he's not her brother. In other words, he is her lover. They, after this bank heist, double cross him in order to gain more of a bigger stake of the loot. But upon him being arrested, he stashes the loot somewhere safe and confides in Michael Palin, his stuttering friend. And the film then proceeds that goes on with the fact that they are trying, Jamie Lee Curtis and Kevin Kline are trying to get, it's effectively some diamonds that are being stashed away by Michael Palin somewhere. And the way they go about it is that Jamie Lee Curtis poses and tries to form a friendship and relationship with John Cleese, who is his barrister, and who is likely to confide in him where these diamonds are. Now, this film is quite sporadic, I think, in terms of its humour, its tone. There's a massive amount of dark comedy, I think. I think there's a decent amount of dark comedy in there, particularly interplaying with Michael Palin and Kevin Kline's characters, who have sort of I must say, probably the funniest moments in this film are when you are watching Kevin Kline and Michael Palin interacting with each other. Their comedic performances in this film are fabulous and wonderful. there's big. How can I describe this? Kevin Kline is just off the wall, really, in this film. He's so over the top and so entertaining. And when he is in contact with Michael Palin's stuttering character, and his impatientness with Michael Palin's stutter is it's so wrong but funny. And there's a whole segment with Michael Palin, there's a witness who has seen his friend George effectively driving away after the robbery, and can eyewitness him, so could potentially send him down for this crime. And there's a whole scene where Michael Palin's character is going to assassinate this elderly woman who has three small dogs, and Michael Palin's an animal lover, and each time in his attempts to kill this woman, bad things happen to her dogs, and it's just so bittersweetly funny. It's great. It's great because towards the end of the film, there's the scene between Kevin Kline and Michael Palin regarding his fish, and it's almost a torture scene. But without torture occurring to Michael Palin, with what happens with these fish and Kevin Kline. I don't want to spoil it because you've not, but you know the scene, and it's outstandingly funny because it looks real. That's part of the dark humour about it, I suppose. Yeah, I've talked a lot about Michael Palin and Kevin Kline there, not enough probably about Jamie Lee Curtis and John Cleese. John Cleese just plays the actually upper class, uptight British character perfectly. He has some very funny moments. Not enough, I don't think, myself. But there's the scenes where she's in his house and then she's hiding from his wife. Very funny. His expressions in particular, because he thinks she's still there, and she isn't. And then his expressions are wonderful. And yeah, Jamie Lee Curtis, she needs to do comedy. She does comedy brilliantly well, as we've seen in films like Trading Places. So she's got a great comedy background. Yeah. Now, is this film I say a comedy classic? Is it a classic film? Critics certainly believe so at the time, and it's got a cult audience. So all the signs would lead to yes, it is. Kevin Kline's performance won himself an Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor in it's a comedy film. It's a dark comedy film. It's probably one of these few comedy films to win Oscars or be nominated for Oscars. It won and at the BAFTAs it was nominated for Best. Palin and Curtis and Cleese and Kline. I don't think Kline was actually, but that trio and the director were all nominated for Best in their categories, and that's quite a phenomenal achievement for a film like that. Now, like I say, there's many funny moments. I think it just lacks one thing, and I'm not sure what it. I can't put my finger on it, and I hate to say it's not a classic film without being able to say why. So I'm going to leave it to other people's judgment in this sense, because although there's many funny moments in the film, I'm not sure whether it's a repeated viewing film for me or not. I hate to not say a film's a classic film and everyone thinks it is, because I want to be a sheep. I like to follow the crowd in terms of certain films, but yeah, I'll leave it to your judgment in this sense. But it's a very, very entertaining film, and there's very memorable moments in the film. So we had Cinderella, which was the newly released cinematic film, and A Fish Called Wanda, which was the classic film, that I saw this week. So yeah, two very entertaining films. Yeah, there we go. That's my films of the week. Thank you again for watching, and if you did enjoy what I've done here today, please subscribe to my channel. Thank you very much, and goodbye.